Absolute chaos in the Champions League. We're going to go through every single goal as it happened on a night of absolute chaos. We were watching Real Madrid versus Man City. We were watching Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. And of course, I was watching the game between Plymouth and Queen's Park Rangers. All were excruciatingly tense and all ended in draws. But there were so many goals and so many mistakes. For such a high level of football, and I'm not talking about Plymouth QPR now. I mean, God, don't get me started on Begovic. Anyway, it was an absolutely unbelievable night of football with so many great goals, but mistakes, mistake after mistake. Let's get straight into it because there are so many goals to get through. Of course, 3-3, 2-2. Let me know your thoughts on both games in the comments down below. We start off with 22 seconds on the clock, and Jack Grealish, who I thought was one of the main men of the evening, picking up the ball off a header here, shows that he's alive, alert in what he's doing. And then off he goes on his run, doing what he does brilliantly, driving with the ball, helping the team up the pitch. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And since he's come back, I think he's been superb. And as I say, we move it along. And 10 seconds later, he's dribbled the ball up the pitch. And this is a big moment in the tie. Huge, huge moment in the tie. Because that person there diving in is Chmapions. And Chmapions, who played centre-back in the game and overall was comfortable. Man City didn't look them totally themselves, I've got to be honest. But there were, in these kind of games, sometimes you need players to get you out of jail. And that certainly happened. We'll talk about that when we get to that goal. But Jack Grealish making a really great direct run in what was a flat display by Man City at times. But Chmapions dives in. And the reason why this is so crucial is he got booked. And because he's got booked, of course, he misses the second leg. So they're going to need to get one of their centre-backs back. Obviously, you've got Nacho who can come in. But Chmapions not being available for that second leg is obviously a disappointing one for them. And then it's very, very clever stuff from Bernardo Silva, who I thought really, really huffed and puffed for the team. And Real Madrid just, don't really enjoy playing against him. And he was very important as the game progressed. Let's move it on one more. And you can see how clever it was, the goal here. And I think the person we've got to focus on here is Lumin, who just wasn't expecting it, wasn't thinking this for a second. He's not really, his weight is all over the place. And Bernardo Silva does fantastically to get that shot off and sneak it into that corner. Really, really clever stuff. And I think this, if you think about that, teams know so much about each other. I think what they're really expecting is obviously this to the back post, because when you've got Haaland, Kanji, Stones, Gvardiol, all these big boys, you want to put the ball to the back post a lot of the time. But that's actually kind of, from what I've noticed, that's not really worked for Man City in recent weeks. And I think that's why Haaland's had a bit of a struggle. So super clever stuff from Bernardo Silva. Absolutely superb. We move on to Arsenal's first goal, 11 minutes into the game. They started the game absolutely brilliantly. A lot of their work coming down this right-hand side throughout the game. And actually the goal, the second goal comes from that as well. And I think if we go back to the start of this, I think the one thing that's really interesting for me when it comes to this is Ben White. Ben White's positioning very high. And obviously in terms of the focus of Bayern Munich, Alphonso Davies was concerned about Saka a little bit more. Gnabry's obviously got Ben White because normally those two are swapped round. They're the other way around. And actually here, it's weird. There's actually, there's a ball on. Obviously it wasn't played here. But if you had a different kind of player than Ben White and he curves his run there, he could have been in there. But I think everyone knew what was going on. And again, what's the point in playing that pass? Because you got Gnabry there. So it's clever movement in terms of, first of all, swapping that rotation, but then going back the other way around. A gorgeous, gorgeous pass from Odegaard in this one. So that move is made. Saka, you can see, completely out of shot at this point. And that area is created. Great ball from the outside of the boot from Odegaard here. Plays that pass into Saka. And then it's about mistakes. And for especially the Arsenal-Bayern Munich game, mistake after mistake after mistake. And for Bayern Munich, first of all, Alphonso Davies doesn't win his duel. Gnabry doesn't get to the ball quick enough. And actually it's Kai Havertz who comes and helps out, who you can obviously see right here. And he doesn't win his one, but there's one person who we have to blame more than anyone else, and it's Eric Dyer. And it's a shame because I like Eric Dyer. I want him to do well. But he basically picked the corner for Bukayo Saka. And in fact, Bukayo Saka actually weirdly had options, but he allowed to use him as a bit of a screen to play that shot and get that first goal. Great finish, able to put it into that corner, which is great to see, obviously, but it was all a little bit too easy. Hang on. But it was all a little bit too easy, and the decision was made for him by Eric Dyer, not getting close enough to the ball, essentially being a little bit afraid. And it was very Tottenham, wasn't it? If you think of Antonio Conte, time and again we've seen Eric Dyer put his hands behind his back and look to make that block, and that's what he was trying to do with this one. And Bukayo Saka put it into that corner. Back to the Real Madrid-Man City game, and Real Madrid turned it around. This was the first goal. I think in terms of a notable mentions, there's a pass from the deep waters over to Carvajal, who's able to get the ball to Camavinga. Camavinga in that area there, it's one where, I guess Jack Grealish is again another talking point. But really, when you're Jack Grealish, if that player decides to sort of make a little jig and go into a central area, you think you're fine because, ultimately you've got all of these players in the way. And although zone 14 is an area where you don't want the ball to be, I think overall he felt like he was going to be okay, but he was unfortunate. Of course, the shot came in, deflected off Diaz, I think it was, and it goes in. Unfortunate for that one. But the next one, a little bit different for me. And I thought it was poor from John Stones, but it was one of those ones where it shows how elite this game of football was, because really it doesn't feel like there's too much of a problem there when Vinicius Jr. gets the ball. But the important thing here is he's able to turn. And I think when you watch it back, if anyone watches it back, and I think Stones would be one of those, obviously, that will watch it back, he could have got tighter. Could have got a lot tighter to stop that turn. Another thing that I think is important here, Kyle Walker spoke about this recently, is that when John Stones and him are playing against a Vinicius Jr., and of course, Vinicius Jr. isn't in his normal position. Over the years, he's been over there making that dart. So he knows that run and knows the timing of that run. But actually, it's Rodrigo. In this game, Real Madrid kind of played that 4-4-2 out of possession that Arsenal did against Man City. And you can see it here with Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. kind of as that too, and Rodrigo was playing wide left in this game. But obviously those rotations, continuously happen, and it was great stuff from Vinicius Jr. for this goal. Dropped deep, was able to get that quick turn in, and that's why you've got so much space between the three. But, to a man, when you're generally trying to make the pitch smaller, he's okay. Diaz thinks he's got good space, and ultimately Akanji, when he does get back, he does get back, But Kyle Walker, I think, would probably get there before Rodrigo even gets the ball, and that would have been the difference. And that's why, personnel and injuries does make a difference. Can Stones be there and tighter? Absolutely. I would put a certain amount of blame on him for that one. It's a mistake, but it's not an outrageous one. But in terms of them looking completely open, that was clever play from Real Madrid, and they deserve massive credit for that in terms of him getting that ball and playing that pass. A little bit of luck with the finish as well. The finish goes through Akanji's legs, deflects off him, and then goes through Ortega's legs as well. So one of those ones where, you've got to be absolutely gutted with it. But there you can see him already on the way. And again, it looks very glaring and open. But Kanji, kind of does get himself goal side. So overall, I think he was unfortunate with that one. Back to the equaliser of Bayern Munich against Arsenal, and mistake after mistake after mistake for both of these goals. First of all, you can't actually see the ball here, but it's about to drop around here. And David Raya looks to come and get involved, and that does play with Gabriel's mind a little bit. If you watch the goal back, he's looking. He kind of wants to play that pass back to David Raya, but David Raya hasn't got himself back in time, so he has to play the pass to Kivior, which he plays really poorly. It's a bad pass. He kind of trips up on the ball. And what happens here is then you're in massive, massive trouble. If we move it along, you can see exactly what starts to happen. There's the bad pass from Gabriel, and it goes to Sane. But the player that's so important for this first goal, and it's his goal in my opinion, is Goretzka. Really, really clever movement. And as the game progresses here, there's a moment where Goretzka kind of makes his run. And what happens is Declan Rice looks to drop in here, to be in that centre-back position to sort of help out the team, which is the right decision. It's absolutely the right decision initially. But the mistake he makes is that Goretzka, he's having a little look at Goretzka now and again, but Goretzka, instead of kind of coming and sitting in front of him, he goes. He really does go, and he goes beyond him. And Declan Rice then has a decision to make. From being in this position here, he has to either stay, which is what he should have done. So Gabriel makes a mistake, David Raya makes a mini mistake, Kivior doesn't make that pass, but I think it's more on Gabriel. And then I think Declan Rice makes a mistake because he commits forward and Goretzka's already gone past him. mistake after mistake with that. And then, as you can see here, flat-footed, very unlike Declan Rice. And again, if Declan Rice is here, I think they're obviously in a much better position as a back line because you've essentially turned yourself back into it. And I always say, if the ball's in front of you, they haven't scored a goal yet. But Declan Rice allowed for that space, and Goretzka with a cracking little run. And it's one about scanning. It's almost a different kind of scanning. Instead of when the ball's coming to you, you've got to have that look so that you retain the ball. In this one, Declan Rice got it wrong, in my opinion, and defensively didn't have his best night. And then all of a sudden, you've got that run from Gnabry into that space here. Goretzka's the wrong side of Declan Rice. Saliba's getting sucked in. He plays that pass into it, and Gnabry makes a really, really good finish. But it's all Goretzka's for me. Great work from him, and great counter-attacking. Now, this is insane. This is absolutely ridiculous. For anyone who didn't watch the game or missed this moment, this is the lead up to the second goal for Bayern Munich, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Neuer flicks the ball up and knocks it over Havertz's head. Like, it's like this, right? He gets the ball and he goes, oh, actually, well, okay, well, you're in the way, so I'm going to bang it over you. Wild. I mean, so cool. Like, so cool. Lads on tranquilizers. Heard it here first on the JLA channel. So that starts off the move. And I'll tell you what, we'll even give you a little drawing. There you go. And if we move it on. Again, great goal, great work from Sane, who was fantastic in this game. That allowed them to beat the initial press and get the ball into Sane. And again, on a tough night for Kivior, who came on at half-time. It was an opportunity and a declaration of trust from Arteta in terms of giving him that starting berth. But he struggled. It did feel like he struggled. It felt like he was chasing shadows a lot of the time. And in Sane, who was that little bit more narrow, especially on the counter-attack. Bayern Munich looked really, really dangerous in this first half. And Sane was able to roll him, get away from him. And so that's a mistake for me. And then from then on, Jorginho's trying to get the ball. Gabriel then misses a challenge. Declan Rice, I think, has a snap at it as well. And in the end, it's Saliba who makes the challenge and takes out Sane. And it's a penalty for that man, Harry Kane. There you go, Saliba kind of making that challenge. The one thing I would say, and again, this is so easy to say now, but his body position is obviously all wrong, Saliba, because mistake after mistake has occurred. But you do wonder if Ben White would have made that challenge regardless. Hindsight's 2020, and I wouldn't go too deep on that. But, Saliba ultimately did give away the penalty, and Ben White was maybe focusing on Gnabry. Superb work from Sane. And I think it's one where this Bayern Munich side, for all the difficulty that they're having in the league, they still got a lot of quality. And actually, almost as the underdog in an away game, they sort of had a bit of a Tottenham style to them in terms of the way that they were counter-attacking. And again, Sane, I thought fantastic. Gnabry able to make those runs. And there was that space there. But 2 avoidable goals for them. Harry Kane did what Harry Kane does. And when he does his celebration, there was just a little bit extra with the downward, which was I thought it was telling. We move on. So 2-2. The 2-2 goal for Man City. It's chaos here. It's chaos here at JLA Studios. The person I want to talk about here, again, John Stones affecting the game. He has a lovely little look, and it's really clever stuff. But, of course, who's him? Phil Foden. And talking about, I literally made a note. I wrote, missing KDB, Mahrez, Gundo. And that was true until Foden rocked up and did what Foden does. And I think that's a big thing here. When you're looking at Arsenal and Man City, the one thing that does get at me, and I thought Man City didn't have it anymore, and I was proven massively wrong during the game, was the fact that I was thinking, sure, when it is tight like this and it's games like this, you actually need someone to go, just give me the ball and I'll do it. KDB against Crystal Palace recently, and Phil Foden in this moment as well. And I think the important thing to say here, in terms of affecting the game, in terms of Cruz, bless him, Cruz is trying to kind of get over to help out, and then very quickly that pass is made to John Stones. But the positioning of Stones is absolutely crucial here, as is Phil Foden. But if John Stones is not as positive, if he's sort of chilling over here and just allowing it to be a sort of different kind of triangle as a midfield 3, that goal doesn't happen, because Cruz kind of makes that move. But Camavinga, who initially was actually in this position here, Phil Foden does what he does brilliantly, which is often go on that blind side. and then he knows that Stones is there. And if you go watch the goal back and watch it slowly, John Stones has that look. He has that little look, and he knows what he wants to do. He wants to give the ball to Foden. And you can see Foden's there, kind of screaming with his hands, in a way, asking for the ball. And he gets it, and he just smashes it in the top corner, doesn't he? I mean, let's see if this goes the right way. No, that's the next goal. He's able to get that shot off. So being able to be either side of Camavinga was how that goal came to be. I think I would say there are going to be moments where, as fantastic as Toni Kroos is, just that little bit of zip to get closer to the ball at times is something that he's obviously missing in his later years. I think that's being a little bit harsh as well. So huge credit goes to John Stones and, of course, Phil Foden, who did a great goal. Exactly what they needed, because at that point, it was side to side. They weren't really affecting the game. And then, of course, a couple of minutes later, they go and get themselves another one. And this time, it's Gvardiol. We're talking about mistakes once again. It's one where I think it's a little bit unfair to have a go at Kroos here, because I think the person who deserves plaudits when it comes to this goal, for me, Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish is direct. He's looking to affect the game. And actually, you've got Phil Foden looking to get the ball once again. And Kroos is focused on Foden. He's concerned about Foden. You can see a little arm. Let's see if I can do it. There. You can see the little arm right on the corner there. I think that's John Stones, who's also looking to get involved. But if we move it along one more, or go back one, in fact. Yeah, it is John Stones. So really, in terms of that zone 14, which I've got to say, Phil Foden is... So if you don't know what zone 14 is here. And a lot of goals come in zone 14. And Phil Foden is making zone 14 his own. And so Kroos is understandably, and the midfield are understandably, concerned with these two. And Camavinga is looking to go and help out like another midfielder would look to do that. And when Gvardiol gets the ball and shoots from there, anyone else you would be going, once he's got the ball, he's going to pass to someone else. But again, let's bloody do it. This won't be happening every so often. Bow. Right foot. So a left-footed centre-back who's playing left-back smashes one in from outside the box with his right foot. That's the level that we're talking about here. Absolutely astonishing stuff. And I'm so pleased we focused on both games in this. We keep moving. And is that the last goal? No. Yeah, of course there's more. So Arsenal against Bayern Munich, it's 2-1. Arsenal huffing and puffing, and to that same idea in terms of getting that goal and those players who could just be those difference makers. You need to get them on the pitch. And I've got to say, I thought Trossard did brilliantly. It's really, really interesting. If you go and look at his average positions and his heat map, you'll see the only time he came over to this side of the pitch was on this occasion, where he has one touch to get the ball to Jesus, and then, of course, the finish. Declan Rice, by this point, and Jesus had come on, Jorginho had come off, and Jesus was playing a little bit higher up there. And I thought what was interesting here, it was this probably one of the first times where he sort of sucked in the opposition here, but you had a lot of players in a very tight space. Declan Rice winning his duel, of course, and actually, look, you've even got Kai Havertz chilling over here. So a lot of people in one congested area, but what they were able to do within that very, very tight area of the pitch was do some damage and get and create. And that's a different kind of goal. And I think they deserve plaudits for that as well at Arsenal, because as it moves on, I thought Jesus was absolutely phenomenal for this goal, because for him to have the awareness that he had when we get to this point, and if you think about Declan Rice kind of diving in for that first goal, it shows how football can come at you fast. Because actually, in fact, it was Goretzka who jumps in here. But the important thing with how tight it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as well, if you want to put Harry Kane there. So 7 in the box there, 6 in a very, very tight area of the pitch. Delict on the floor, probably shouldn't have dove in there. But Jesus, superb. You go and watch it back. He has no right to have the awareness to see Trossard to the left of him there. Kai Havertz, is he creating space, or is that a lack of composure there? I don't know. But the important thing is Trossard had that composure. He didn't rush to get in the box. He took his time to understand the space. And I think he has that sort of, we were talking about it with Man City, that Gundogan aspect to him where he can ghost in and get yourself a goal especially when everyone else is that little bit tense. He's that little bit calmer, and he gets himself a goal, and it's a really lovely, composed finish. But we're not done. It's not over. There's more goals. 3-2 to Man City, which would have been an absolutely wonderful result for them, but not to be. And the reason it was not to be, Luka Modric. He's still bloody got it, isn't he? And you talk about substitutes that can come on and affect the game, understand the game, and see what's needed to go and get it done. And this goal is pure timing from everyone and understanding of the game, and the fact that Modric, even at the age that he is still able to get on the ball and drive. I went to El Clasico and he changed the game when he came on. It was sort of men against boys in terms from an intelligence point of view, and he did it in this moment here, driving to create that space for Vinicius Junior. And what's important here is this: where's Valverde? Not there. So from a defensive point of view, I think you can't see Kovacic either, but Kovacic is kind of on his way. When you go to the final moment of it, could Gvardiol, and I'll show you in a second, but there's a decision here. But really, the defensive shape of Man City is really, really strong. Obviously, Akanji is concerned that Vinicius Junior is going to go to the byline. But it's interesting. I reckon Vinicius Junior, as much as he's seen Modric here, he knows this team and he's looking over here. And he's going to know that Valverde's got the energy to make a really, really good run. And not a run all the way to the back post, but to this area here. But there is still so much more to do. But he creates that space. And again, we're expecting Vinicius Junior to go drive with the ball like he normally does. But no, he goes and makes a cross actually from about here and plays it right here. Let's move it along one more. And the goal comes. So from coming out of shot, we now can see Kovacic, who I think you're being harsh if you're saying you've kind of got to get near to him because he's in line with his defence. They're compact. I think the back line are in good shape as well. Gvardiol's in line with his back line as well. I don't think anyone's done anything wrong here. It's just the subtle brilliance of a very, very, very quality team. The finish is absolutely fantastic. It's worthy of a gorgeous volley, clever goal. And that's the level that we're looking at here. And the game finishes 3-3. So, at the end of it all up for grabs, right? I think it's interesting. I think, look, Man City walk away. I think regardless of, losing that final goal to make it 3-3, I think they're really, really happy. I think they're really, really happy with the 3-3 draw. No away goals, of course. They go back home, get KDB fit. I think with a game like this, your intelligence levels are a huge aspect in this. Unfortunately, Phil Foden is him and was able to step up at the highest level on the biggest scene in the biggest moment. So that is, huge for the future of Man City, future of England probably as well. But again, this guy has to play in the central areas. So you're going to have to get both those players in. But Haaland looked rubbish, if I'm honest. He's just not, he's working, he's huffing and puffing. But there were moments when they weren't able to break them down. And that cross from De Bruyne to sort of take players out of the game was kind of missing that connection, that cheat code between him and Haaland wasn't there because, of course, KDB didn't play in this one. So that's an asset that Man City will have. Kyle Walker will be an asset that they will have as well. But you can't discount Real Madrid. I feel Bellingham was quiet on this one overall, just was a bit sort of snarly, which is generally a good thing for him. But in this one, didn't really get much going for him. And then the final thing to talk about, of course, the penalty. The penalty. Talk to me in the comments below. I've got to be honest. From one angle, the initial angle, I was like, he's kind of looking for that. And I have a bit of a get-up rule. And it was one of those ones. And going back to Harvey Elliott, I did a video talking about that penalty in the Man United-Liverpool game. And it was one where if Wan-Bissaka stays on his feet, I don't think that gets given. And I feel like this is maybe the same thing. At the same point, Neuer's leg does come out. And Saka obviously hits it. There is contact there. So I'm a bit confused. So let me know in the comments down below. Was that a penalty or was it not? If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favour. Give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and just have a great time in life. See you soon.